What if the very fabric of our reality, including time itself, is fundamentally different from what we typically perceive?
Hmm.
What if our existence is far more interconnected and, well, divine than we've ever imagined?
That's a pretty profound place to start.
It really is. And today, we're embarking on a journey into precisely these kinds of questions, pulling back the veil a bit on what it truly means to exist.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your intriguing questions, your piles of sources, and we really meticulously extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight.
Yeah, we try to boil it down.
Our mission is to provide you, our curious listener, with a shortcut to being truly well-informed. We aim for those surprising facts, maybe just enough humor to keep you hooked, but always, always grounded in the material you've provided us.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're exploring the foundational concepts for an entire series called The Wanderer's Compass. We're specifically zeroing in on an episode titled Infinity, like we're going to make it out alive.
Catchy title.
Isn't it? Our goal here, pretty ambitious, to give you a comprehensive understanding of existence, time, and, crucially, your own inherent divine nature.
So not just abstract philosophy, then?
No, definitely not. They look at more as a comprehensive guide for self-discovery, and maybe a practical roadmap for what we're calling the journey of spiritual adulthood.
Okay, spiritual adulthood. I like that. And to navigate this pretty expansive landscape, we've drawn from a really rich tapestry of thought, haven't we?
We really have a diverse set.
Yeah, we've got ancient spiritual philosophies like Hermeticism, the profound wisdom embedded in the Emerald Tablets. We're looking at foundational concepts from Jungian psychology.
Deep stuff there.
Oh, yeah. Insights from modern physics can't ignore that, and even unique perspectives found in, let's say, emerging spiritual frameworks like OASPE.
Right? It's quite a mix.
It is, and these diverse materials will help us meticulously unpack how our minds, and crucially our intentionality, are the ultimate keys. The keys to actively co-creating and, well, manifesting our reality.
So it's about understanding our role.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond simply observing existence to understanding your integral role in actually shaping it. It's quite empowering when you think about it.
All right, let's unpack this fascinating premise. We're starting with, the very fabric of existence itself, kicking off with what's known as the mental universe and its unified dimensions.
Okay.
This concept primarily comes from a foundational Hermetic text, the Kybalion. It introduces this fundamental principle of mentalism, which states, with startling simplicity, the all is mind. The universe is mental.
Simple, but incredibly profound.
Right. Now, when the ancient text refers to the all, it's not just talking about, like, the sum total of everything we see or touch.
No, it's deeper than that.
Exactly. It's pointing to the substantial reality that underlies all outward manifestations. Everything we perceive as the material universe, life, matter, and energy. It's the foundational ground of being, you could say. The absolute source.
That's a really crucial distinction to make right at the start, because it profoundly shifts our perspective, doesn't it? Instead of seeing the universe as primarily just stuff, inert matter.
Yeah, just atoms bumping around.
Right. This principle posits that the entire phenomenal world, everything you experience with your senses, every thought, every emotion, is purely a mental creation of the all.
A mental creation.
Yeah. It exists not as something separate and external, but literally within the mind of the all. And here's where it becomes really intimately personal for us, for you listening.
How so?
Because this is the boundless universal mind in which, as the text says, we live and move and have our being. So our very consciousness, our thoughts, our experiences, they aren't merely in the universe, they are of the universe. An intrinsic part of this vast, interconnected mental field.
Okay, so we're not separate observers. We're part of the mental landscape.
Exactly. Participant.
And what are the broader implications of thinking about the universe in this fundamentally mental way? Because, it sounds like it could explain a great deal that modern science often struggles with,
Right.
Or maybe it just labels as inexplicable.
Precisely. That's one of its great strengths. This principle provides an incredibly powerful and coherent framework for understanding all sorts of mental and psychic phenomena. Things that, without this explanation, might seem completely non-understandable or even defy conventional scientific treatment.
Like what sort of things?
Well, think about those moments of uncanny synchronicity. You know, when you think of an old friend and then suddenly, boom, they
I
call.
all the time.
Right. Or maybe a sudden vivid dream that seems to offer a perfect practical solution to a waking problem you've been grappling with for weeks.
Yeah.
This framework suggests this isn't just random coincidence or, a lucky guess. It's the universal mind at play. A subtle ether of thought connecting everything. The profound insight here is that these aren't aberrations of reality, like strange anomalies that occasionally pop up, but rather they're the natural expressions of a fundamentally mental universe. They're inviting us, really, to explore our own untapped capacities within it.
So it flips the script. Instead of weird exceptions, they're actually examples of how things really work.
Exactly. It shifts the whole paradigm from a purely materialistic, kind of mechanistic existence to one that is vibrant, alive, and fundamentally mental.
Wow. Okay, so it gives us a completely new lens through which to view our experiences. But if the universe is mental, how does understanding this principle specifically affect us individually, like day to day? Does grasping this concept truly empower us in a tangible way?
Absolutely. The Kybalion is very explicit about this. It states that an understanding of this hermetic principle enables individuals to grasp the laws of the mental universe.
The rules of the game, so to speak.
Kind of, yeah. And, crucially, to consciously apply them for their well-being and advancement. There's a direct quote that I think is truly transformative. He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery.
Mastery of what?
Mastery of oneself and, by extension, one's experience of reality. See, this isn't just about, positive affirmations or simple wishful thinking, though those can be tools. It's about understanding that your mental architecture isn't just a reflection of reality, it's an active co-creator of it.
Okay, co-creator. That's a powerful idea.
It is. The profound insight is that the very act of refining your thought patterns, clearing out your internal noise, directing your focus, it's akin to rewriting the operating system of your personal universe.
So the limitations we feel, maybe they aren't set in stone.
Exactly. What if the limitations you perceive in your life, your health, your circumstances, whatever, aren't inherent to reality itself, but rather patterns woven and reinforced by your own mind? This principle suggests that by mastering your own mind, you are fundamentally gaining mastery over reality itself. Because reality is mental.
That's a truly powerful concept. If we can truly influence our minds at that foundational level, we can influence our reality.
That's the promise, yes.
And speaking of the very structure of reality, let's move from the mental nature of the universe to how we understand its fundamental dimensions. Specifically, this idea of the unification of space and time. For centuries, our classical understanding, largely shaped by Isaac Newton.
The clockwork universe guy.
Right. His mechanical model of physics posited absolute unchanging space and time. Everything was just a fixed, independent stage, like a grand, immutable clockwork machine where events simply played out.
Yeah, very predictable, very neat. But then things changed.
Big time. The early 20th century brought these revolutionary shifts that basically shattered that rigid framework.
Albert Einstein's groundbreaking work on relativity. Well, it changed everything.
It demonstrated with undeniable mathematical elegance that space and time are not separate entities at all. They're intrinsically interconnected, forming a unified four-dimensional continuum.
Okay, so break that down. Four-dimensional continuum.
Think of it like a cosmic fabric. You got the three dimensions we know, length, width, depth, right. Well, they're inextricably woven together with the fourth dimension, time. They're not separate. And Einstein further showed that mass itself isn't just like stuff. It's a concentrated form of energy. And massive bodies actually curve this space-time fabric.
Like a bowling ball on a trampoline?
That's the classic analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. And this curvature is what we perceive as gravity. So this effectively eliminated the whole idea of absolute space and absolute time. It revealed a universe that is far more dynamic and interconnected than anyone had previously imagined. So the universe isn't a rigid clockwork machine, but something far more fluid, interconnected, responsive, alive almost.
In a sense, yes. Much more organic.
What's truly fascinating here, for me anyway, is how this cutting-edge scientific understanding of a unified spacetime seems to align so remarkably with much older, deeply intuitive Eastern mystical views. It's almost as if science is finally catching up to ancient wisdom.
It's a stunning convergence, isn't it? Eastern mystical traditions have, for millennia, described the universe not as a collection of separate parts, but as an integrated whole. They've always emphasized its profound interconnectedness and, importantly, its impermanence, constant change.
Right, like the idea of flow.
Exactly. Consider the analogy often used in Fritjof Capra's book, The Tao of Physics. Imagine rolling a marble down an inclined plane.
Okay.
That's your deterministic classical view, right? Every motion is predictable, every outcome fixed. Newtonian.
Makes sense.
Now contrast that with throwing a handful of confetti into the air. Each piece spirals, dances, interacts in complex, unpredictable patterns.
Total chaos, seemingly.
Seemingly. But it mirrors the quantum realm, a realm of probabilities, interconnectedness, constant flux. It highlights how modern physics reveals a fluid, dynamic universe, much like the rhythms of life that Eastern mystics have always described. A universe of constant flow and change, not just fixed points.
It feels like more than just a philosophical parallel.
Oh, I agree. It feels like a deep resonance, suggesting a kind of universal truth being approached from very different angles, science and mysticism arriving at a similar understanding of interconnectedness.
And this inherent fluidity and dynamism seems to be reinforced by some other fascinating concepts too, like this idea of vortexia described in the Oahspe text you mentioned earlier. That's a pretty intriguing spiritualist text.
Yes, Oahspe presents a truly captivating model of cosmic mechanics. It describes the Earth's formation not as a slow accretion, but as a ball of fire resulting from vortexia, these immense, spiraling, energetic flows.
Wow.
It even suggests that the ongoing warmth of the Earth's surface isn't just residual heat from formation, but is actively manufactured by this same underlying vortexial power.
So an ongoing creation process.
That's the implication. But what's truly compelling for our discussion of unified dimensions is the idea of the vortex or vortex ring as an archetype form. A fundamental repeating pattern appearing at all levels of nature.
Like fractals.
Similar idea, yeah. Think about it. From the grand scale of galaxies swirling in space, down to the spin of hurricanes on Earth, the intricate double helix of DNA, and even the magnetic charge and spin of elementary particles, you see this same fundamental dynamic spiraling pattern.
It's everywhere.
It really is. It illustrates a deep underlying blueprint, a kind of cosmic signature that connects the largest structures in the universe to the smallest. It shows this fundamental dynamic pattern underlying all manifestation. It's a powerful visual of a truly interconnected dynamic existence.
That's incredible, this idea of an underlying unifying pattern, a cosmic signature woven throughout all existence. It feels like a perfect lead-in to this core mathematical and spiritual concept from the Wanderer's Compass itself, the O1 framework.
Yes, the O1 framework, it's central.
It represents non-duality, right? A profound principle where zero embodies pure potential, and one signifies its manifestation into perceivable reality. Can you unpack that a bit?
Absolutely. The O1 framework is profound because it's not just a mathematical concept. It's presented as a living blueprint for reality itself. Think of zero. Not as emptiness or absence, not as nothingness.
Okay, because usually zero means nothing.
Right, but here it means infinite, undifferentiated possibility, like the silent hum before a symphony begins, maybe, or the uncarved block of wood from which all forms can emerge. It's the ultimate state of pure potential, a boundless reservoir of what could be.
Limitless potential.
Exactly. And one is the first note, the symphony, the initial differentiation, the first breath of manifestation from that boundless potential. It's the moment the all, that pure potential, begins to express itself, moving from pure thought, pure potentiality, into perceivable form, the spark of individual existence appearing out of the infinite. This framework is really essential for understanding how anything comes into being from the formless, how potential becomes actual.
So, if zero is the boundless potential, and one is the first active manifestation, the first differentiation, how does time fit into this grand process? Where does it act as this essential axis you mentioned?
Time within this O1 framework serves as the absolutely essential axis along which this whole process of manifestation unfolds.
It's the unfolding mechanism.
Precisely. It's not just a passive backdrop or linear progression of moments ticking by. It's the dynamic medium, the very engine that allows pure potential, that boundless zero, to differentiate, to evolve, and ultimately manifest into perceivable reality, into the one, and then into the multiplicity of things.
So without time, nothing could actually become.
Without time, there would be no unfolding, no becoming, no experience of reality as we know it. It's the dynamic medium through which the mental creation of the all, which we talked about earlier, expresses itself in a sequential, perceivable manner. It allows for the rich tapestry of existence, with all its complexity and change, to unfold moment by moment.
It's a very elegant way to connect these grand cosmic ideas, the mental universe, potentiality, to a tangible, ongoing process of creation, a process that we are all undeniably a part of.
Exactly. It brings it right down to the unfolding of this present moment.
So if the universe is this mental creation of the all, and we literally exist within the mind of the all, it naturally leads us to one of the most profound questions, doesn't it? Are we merely like a small piece of the divine, a tiny fragment? Or are we fundamentally divine in nature ourselves, active participants rather than just fragments?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It feels like it. It seems our very consciousness, being an integral part of this mental creation, inherently shares the nature of the all.
This concept of inherent divinity is indeed a cornerstone across many, many profound spiritual traditions, and it offers a truly radical shift in self-perception. It changes everything about how you see yourself.
How so?
Well, for example, take a Gnostic perspective. The material world is often viewed as, frankly, an utterly flawed creation, a realm of limitation, maybe even illusion or suffering.
Sounds like grim.
It can sound that way initially, but the key, the Gnostics believed, is that escape, or maybe better put, liberation and true awakening, is only available to the small minority who know, who recognize the need for liberation which lies within.
Ah, okay. So the answer isn't out there, it's in here.
Precisely. It emphasizes an inherent, though often hidden, divine spark within each person. It suggests that wisdom, Sophia, is for the spiritual, the elite, distinguishing them from, as they put it, the gullible herd of humans mired in the material, the victims of cosmic deception.
Elite sounds a bit exclusionary.
It can, but the emphasis is really on awakening. The idea is that the true Gnostic is awakened to this inner truth, while others remain asleep, bound by their misperceptions of reality. The profound insight here isn't about being better than others, but that salvation isn't external. It's an internal recognition of what you already are, fundamentally.
So it's not about seeking divinity from some external source, like praying to a god out there, but awakening to what's already intrinsically within us.
Exactly.
I'm also thinking of Christian Science teachings here. They take this idea of the material world as secondary even further, don't they? Describing it as an illusion and the real world as totally spiritual.
That's right. Within Christian Science, the implications of this are quite radical, particularly regarding health. Disease and illness, for instance, are not viewed as primarily physical problems.
No. How are they viewed?
They're seen as mental errors, distortions in thought or perception that then manifest physically as ailments. Healing, therefore, becomes a matter of correcting these mental errors, aligning thought with the underlying spiritual reality.
So mind over matter, quite literally.
Very much so. It really reinforces the idea that our physical nature, while seemingly solid and defining, is actually secondary. Perhaps even a projection or a denser manifestation of our mental and spiritual state. It points to a profound power of mind over perceived physical reality, seriously challenging our everyday assumptions about what is truly real and what is malleable.
And speaking of power and our true nature, the ancient Hermetic text of the Emerald Tablets echoes this too, but in a very active, almost fiery way, telling us to be the fire. What does that mean?
Ah, the Emerald Tablets, they contain this powerful, direct instruction. Know, O man, thou art complex, a being of earth and of fire. Let thy flame shine out brightly. Be thou only the fire.
Be thou only the fire. That's intense.
It is, and it's not just poetic language. It implies that humanity is not static, not fixed. We are in process of changing to forms that are not of this world, growing in time to the formless, a plane on the cycle above.
Evolving beyond the physical.
That's the suggestion. The path, according to the tablets, involves the soul being cleansed of its darkness, ere ye may enter the portals of light. It's an urgent, active call, not just to acknowledge your divine, fiery nature, but to actively embody it, to let it transmute what is dense or dark within you and transform you into a higher form of being. It's an invitation to a profound evolutionary journey driven from within.
That concept of a higher origin, a celestial lineage, also resonates strongly with ancient Gnostic, Chaldean, and Orphic beliefs, doesn't it? With statements like, my lineage is celestial. I am a child of the earth and of the starry sky. Heavenly is my race.
Yes, exactly.
So this isn't just about a spiritual journey towards something. It's about recognizing your true, innate origin as something far grander than purely terrestrial, something already divine.
It is, and framing it that way transforms the very notion of who you are. If your lineage is celestial, if your true race is heavenly, then the perceived limitations of your earthly existence, well, they start to seem less solid, less defining, don't they?
They seem more like circumstances rather than defining truths.
Precisely. And this deep self-knowledge can lead to a very different, more direct relationship with the divine, however you conceive of it. Osby, for instance, talks about the religion of gods themselves,
Right.
where adherents have no need for intermediaries such as saviors and idols, but instead they commune directly with the creator, the all-person, the collective unconscious of the universe.
Direct access, no middleman needed.
Exactly. It underscores direct, unmediated access to an inherent oneness with the divine, bypassing traditional hierarchies and external authorities. It's about recognizing that the divine connection isn't something to be earned or granted from outside. It's something that simply is woven into the fabric of your being right here, right now.
Okay, but here's the sticking point for many people, I think. If we're so inherently divine, if we're part of the all and have this celestial lineage, then why? Why do we experience so many limitations, so much suffering, so much struggle in our lives? It feels contradictory.
It does seem contradictory on the surface, absolutely. And that's where the idea comes in, that a lot of these limitations are actually, well, self-imposed bonds, illusions we've somehow bought into, perhaps unknowingly.
Self-imposed, how?
You've hit on a critical point there. In many spiritual traditions, suffering isn't seen as something externally imposed upon us, like a punishment or random misfortune. It often arises from within, from our own mental constructs, our attachments, our ignorance of our true nature.
Okay.
In Buddhist teachings, for example, suffering dukkha arises fundamentally from clinging. Clinging to the ideas of me and mind, this tenacious grip we have on a separate, fixed ego and its perceptions.
Holding on too tight.
Exactly. This clinging, this grasping can make the ego feel miserable, dependent, finite, external to itself, constantly seeking validation or satisfaction from the outside. It keeps us wandering in the eternal wheel of samsara, the cycle of endless birth, death, and rebirth, driven by craving and aversion.
And the alternative is nirvana.
Yes. Nirvana, by contrast, is described as the state of pure being in itself, the unconditioned state. It's reached not by gaining something new, but by letting go, by killing thirst and craving, and the dark mania born of ignorance, as some texts put it. The illusion is that we need to cling to these ideas of a separate self, that they define us, when in reality they are the very source of our bondage.
That sounds remarkably similar, psychologically speaking, to the work John Bradshaw did on healing the shame that binds you. He talks about how toxic shame stemming from childhood trauma leads to a fragmented self. It feels like the same mechanism, just described differently.
It's a critical connection and a very useful bridge to Western psychology. Bradshaw brilliantly illuminated how toxic shame, which isn't healthy guilt about a specific action, but a deep-seated feeling of being fundamentally flawed, often roots itself in unprepared exposure of vulnerability during childhood.
Meaning when a kid's needs or feelings weren't met properly.
Exactly. When a child's natural emotions, needs, or simple beingness are met with judgment, abandonment, ridicule, or abuse, this leads to a profound sense of worthlessness, and the child, to survive, develops a false self.
A mask.
A mask, a persona, yes.
Yeah.
A carefully constructed identity designed to hide the perceived flaws and vulnerabilities, to try and win approval or at least avoid more pain. But this toxic shame then creates a deep distrust of one's judgment and feelings, and a profound inner agony. A persistent, debilitating sense of being fundamentally flawed or just not enough.
And we spend our lives protecting that fragile false self.
We do. Essentially, we build a persona, a sophisticated defense system to hide this core shame. And that very persona, that false self, becomes a cage. It severely limits our true expression, our spontaneity, our joy, and prevents us from accessing or even believing in our inherent divine nature.
And we use all sorts of elaborate defense mechanisms, don't we, to maintain this false construct and keep that shame hidden away. Things like denial, maybe getting lost in fantasy, repression, or even becoming extreme people pleasers or workaholics.
Exactly. The list is long. These can be primary ego defenses like denial, where we simply refuse to acknowledge uncomfortable truths about ourselves or our situation. Or dissociation, where we mentally check out from painful experiences, feeling numb or detached.
Right.
Then there are secondary defenses, which are often more behavioral. Inhibition, where we suppress our natural impulses or creativity. Perfectionism, that relentless drive to avoid criticism by being flawless, which is exhausting. Chronic rage, often a projection of inner pain. Excessive criticism of others, which deflects from our own perceived flaws.
Or addictive behaviors.
Or compulsive behaviors, absolutely. Workaholism, substance abuse, compulsive shopping, eating, you name it. They are all, in different ways, aimed at hiding or numbing that underlying toxic shame. But the tragic irony is that in doing so, they reinforce those self-imposed limitations, keeping us trapped and preventing us from connecting with our true, authentic, and, yes, divine nature. They become a self-fulfilling prophecy of limitation.
This resonates so strongly with Carl Jung's profound concept of the shadow. It really feels like different facets of the same core problem, this fragmented self, these hidden parts we don't want to look at.
It is indeed a core Jungian concept and a direct, powerful parallel. The shadow is what Jung called the disowned self. These are all the parts of ourselves, and this is key, both negative aspects like anger, jealousy, greed, or selfishness, and even potentially positive qualities.
Positive qualities in the shadow, like what?
Like maybe raw creativity, assertiveness, ambition, immense joy, sensuality, things that perhaps in our upbringing or culture were deemed unacceptable, inconvenient, dangerous, or too much. Imagine a child who learned very early that being too loud, too boisterous, or too happy was disruptive or annoying to their parents. Those naturally joyous, expressive parts might get pushed down, relegated to the shadow.
Wow, so we can suppress good things too.
Absolutely. And repressing the shadow, whether it holds positive or negative potential, inevitably leads to what Jung called psychological projections. This is where we unconsciously see in others the very qualities we deny or refuse to acknowledge in ourselves.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If you find yourself disproportionately irritated or judgmental about someone else's perceived rudeness or arrogance, Jung would suggest you might look within. Perhaps you're unconsciously denying or suppressing your own capacity for rudeness, or maybe even a hidden need to assert yourself more strongly that feels unsafe to express. The stronger the reaction to the other person, often the stronger the disowned aspect within yourself.
So if we're seeing something in others that really bothers us, pushes our buttons intensely, it's often a mirror, a reflection of something we haven't acknowledged or integrated in ourselves. That's a truly challenging and humbling thought.
It is humbling, isn't it?
And confronting this shadow, actually turning inwards and looking at those parts, that sounds like it takes real courage.
It absolutely does, and Jung emphasized this repeatedly. He viewed confronting the shadow not just as a psychological task, but as a moral problem. It requires considerable moral effort and genuine inner courage. It means consciously recognizing the dark aspects of the personality as present and real, even though this process is often deeply disagreeable and therefore not popular.
Much easier to blame others.
Infinitely easier. It's much easier to project our flaws, our anger, or insecurities onto others than to face them squarely within ourselves. Think of the classic literary example of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Right, the hidden monster.
Exactly. It perfectly illustrates this concept of a hidden, disowned self, an evil alter ego, perhaps, that when suppressed and denied doesn't go away. It festers and can eventually erupt with destructive force. This highlights the duality within all of us and how deeply suppressed aspects, whether negative impulses or even unacknowledged positive potentials, can powerfully, often unconsciously, influence our behavior, our choices, and our perception of reality. The goal isn't to eliminate the shadow, but to bring it into the light of consciousness. Not necessarily to condone it, but to understand it, integrate it, and reclaim the energy tied up in repressing it, ultimately leading to a more complete and authentic self.
Okay, so we've established quite a landscape here. The universe is fundamentally mental. Space and time are unified dimensions, the stage for manifestation. We are inherently divine beings, part of the all,
Yep.
though often limited by self-imposed beliefs, toxic shame, and this unexamined shadow self.
Got it.
Now, let's transition to the really exciting part. How our mind acts as a co-creator. How our intentionality allows us to actively manifest our reality to maybe overcome some of those limitations. This brings us back to that profoundly practical hermetic concept you mentioned, mental transmutation.
Yes, mental transmutation. It's truly considered the core art, maybe even the highest art, of Hermetic philosophy. It's essentially the practical application of the principle of mentalism.
Okay, so how does it work? What is it?
It's the process of deliberately changing mental states, conditions, and forms into others. Think alchemy, but on the mental plane. The Hermetists explain this through their principle of gender, which, importantly, is not about biological sex.
Right, not male-female in that sense.
No, it's about the interplay of the masculine principle and the feminine principle. The masculine principle represents the active, projecting, directive force think will, intention-focused energy. The feminine principle is the receptive, incubating, creative force think imagination. The subconscious, the fertile ground where seeds are planted.
Okay, active and receptive energies.
Exactly. The idea is that when your focused intention, masculine, energizes your receptive imagination or subconscious feminine. It sets the process of creation in motion. And this happens, they stress, in accordance with universal laws of nature.
It's not magic, it's working with the laws.
Precisely. And this principle, famously expressed in the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above, means that this same process applies to all creative manifestations, whether that's upon the spiritual plane, the mental plane, or the physical plane.
So it works everywhere.
That's the claim. Whether you're consciously creating a new idea in your mind, trying to manifest a new habit or skill, or even influencing physical reality, the same underlying energetic principles are believed to be at play. It gives us a powerful, actionable framework for intentional co-creation, using the interplay of focused will and receptive imagination.
That's fascinating. So we're not just passive observers bouncing around in reality. We're active participants, capable of weaving our intentions into the very fabric of existence.
That's the empowering perspective, yes.
How does this work on an even more practical, maybe more advanced level? You mentioned the law of neutralization earlier. It sounds like a way to truly master our inner world, to not get swept away by things.
The law of neutralization is definitely presented as an advanced Hermetic technique. It builds directly on another Hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm.
Rhythm, like ups and downs.
Exactly. Everything in the universe has a swing, a pendulum movement back and forth, good times and bad times, joy and sorrow, confidence and doubt. It's an inherent rhythm. The law of neutralization involved learning to raise the ego, meaning your conscious awareness, your sense of above the vibrations of the unconscious plane of mental activity, where this pendulum swings most strongly.
Okay, rise above the swing. How?
Imagine your conscious self as standing consciously above the swing of that pendulum. Instead of being helplessly swept away by the negative swing, those inevitable low moods, doubts, setbacks, or external challenges, the Hermetic master, or even an advanced student, learns to effectively detach or neutralize its effect on their conscious state.
How do they do that?
They polarize himself at the desired pole, meaning they consciously choose and firmly hold a positive or desired mental state, calm, focused, courageous, whatever is needed. This is achieved through a process described as akin to conscious refusing or denial of the negative influence having power over their conscious mind. By doing so, they allow the mental pendulum to swing back along the unconscious plane, as the Kabbalion puts it, without it manifesting significantly in their conscious experience or pulling them off their chosen center.
So instead of being tossed around by external circumstances or internal moods like a ship without a rudder, you essentially rise above them, maintaining your chosen state, your chosen course.
That's a profound level of self-mastery.
It truly is. And the text suggests that individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery, perhaps even unconsciously or intuitively, already apply this law to some extent. They do it by simply refusing to allow their moods and negative mental states to affect them.
Like just deciding, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. Kind of, but with real inner conviction and skill. They might simply decide, I'm not going to let this bother me, and genuinely manage to hold that space. The Hermetic master, however, is said to achieve this to a much higher, more consistent degree through conscious application of will. This isn't just stubbornness or pretending, it's portrayed as a deep understanding of mental laws and the focused application of one's conscious faculty to maintain a desired internal state, regardless of external fluctuations or internal rhythmic swings. It demonstrates how profound mental discipline enables genuine control over one's experienced reality, making you less a victim of circumstances and more a deliberate co-creator of your inner and, by extension, outer world.
That ties in beautifully, doesn't it, with the Jungian concept of individuation, which is all about this lifelong journey toward psychological wholeness. It sounds like another path, maybe more psychologically framed path, to integrating and mastering the self to better navigate and co-create reality.
Absolutely. The parallels are striking. Jung defined individuation as the lifelong process of achieving psychic wholeness. And how do you do that? By bringing unconscious material primordial images, archetypes, personal complexes, and especially the shadow into conscious awareness and integrating them.
It's not about becoming perfect then.
No, not at all. Jung was very clear on that. It's about becoming complete, becoming more fully yourself. This process develops a more complete and mature personality and involves aligning the ego, our conscious sense of self, with what Jung called the self, with a capital S.
And the self is.
The self, for Jung, represented the totality of the psyche, including both conscious and unconscious aspects. It's the true center of our being, the regulating core. Individuation is this continuous, dynamic journey of self-discovery and integration, leading towards a profound sense of inner coherence, authenticity, and purpose. It's becoming who you truly are, beneath the masks and conditioning.
And dreams play an absolutely crucial role in that journey, don't they? Jung saw them as direct, unfiltered messages from our unconscious mind guiding this process.
They are indeed vital in the Jungian approach. Jung viewed dreams as a direct, personal, and meaningful communication to the dreamer. He saw them as acting like a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms.
Why are they so important?
Because unlike our conscious mind, which can rationalize, censor, deny, or distort things, the unconscious often expresses itself more directly and symbolically through dreams. It offers unfiltered wisdom and insight into our inner selves, our hidden conflicts, our potentials. As Jung famously believed, the unconscious often had a better idea of what was really going on in your life, as far as meaning, than your conscious self.
Our unconscious knows better than we do.
Often, yes, about the deeper patterns and meanings. The key to unlocking this wisdom, Jung stressed, is to observe the dream itself, i.e. to its actual form and statement. Pay attention to the specific images and feelings, rather than just freely associating away from it into abstract ideas. For instance, if you dream of a specific crumbling house, it's not just generically about houses, it's about the specific crumbling house, its unique details, the emotions it evokes. That offers a direct symbolic message about a foundational structure in your life, maybe your sense of security, your body, a relationship that might be deteriorating or in need of attention.
So understanding our dreams helps us understand our hidden motivations, conflicts, and even untapped potentials that the conscious mind might overlook.
Precisely. They're like letters from the self.
And what about shadow work? That often challenging but seemingly transformative process of integrating our disowned parts. How does that specifically relate to becoming a more effective co-creator? It seems essential if we want clear intention.
Shadow integration, or shadow work, is absolutely transformative for becoming a conscious co-creator. It's fundamentally about reclaiming lost energy and authenticity. It's that courageous process of bringing those disowned parts of oneself again, both the socially unacceptable negative traits like anger, envy, or self-sabotage, and those suppressed positive ones like brilliance, power, or assertiveness that maybe felt unsafe to own, bringing them into consciousness and accepting them as part of you. Not necessarily liking them, but acknowledging their reality.
And the benefits of doing that?
The benefits are profound. Firstly, you'll likely experience improved relationships because you stop projecting your unowned stuff onto others nearly as much. You see people more clearly.
Makes sense. Less projection, less conflict.
Right. Secondly, there's deep psychological integration and maturity. You become more whole, less fragmented, more congruent, and perhaps most powerfully for the act of co-creation. Doing shadow work liberates a tremendous reservoir of energy you were unconsciously investing in protecting yourself. Energy spent maintaining the false self, repressing unwanted feelings, keeping the mask firmly in place.
That's energy we could use for creating.
Exactly. This process helps dismantle the false self, or ego construct, formed in childhood, paving the way for the true self, the integrated self, to emerge. And that self is a much more authentic, integrated, and potent version of you, capable of clear intention, greater resilience, and more effective manifestation because it's operating from a place of wholeness, not fragmentation and inner conflict.
It sounds incredibly challenging facing those hidden parts, but also immensely rewarding and maybe even essential for unlocking that full potential we talked about.
I believe it is essential, yes.
What are some practical steps someone could take to actually engage in shadow work? It seems like it requires careful handling, not just diving in recklessly.
It does require both courage and a gentle, mindful approach. Some practical steps include, first and foremost, cultivating self-compassion. This is known as Maitri in the Buddhist tradition. It means treating yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding you would offer a dear friend, especially when you're facing uncomfortable or shameful truths about yourself. Judgment just drives the shadow deeper.
Be kind to yourself, even the bad parts.
Especially the bad parts, because they often developed as coping mechanisms. You also need to learn to dialogue with these disowned parts or subpersonalities within you, not as enemies to be vanquished, but as aspects of yourself that carry wisdom or unmet needs, aspects needing understanding and integration.
Talk to them, like internally.
Yes, internal dialogue. And it's crucial during this process to maintain a calm, clear, and neutral and centered state, like a wise, compassionate observer within you. This helps avoid being possessed by a subpersonality, meaning preventing that disowned part, like intense rage or crippling fear, from completely overwhelming your conscious mind and taking control of your actions or reactions.
Stay grounded while exploring.
Exactly. And finally, a very practical tip. Maintain a shadow journal. Write down your discoveries, your dreams, the projections you notice in yourself. Why? Because these disowned parts and insights can be incredibly elusive, much like dreams slipping from memory the moment you wake up. Consistent journaling helps solidify these insights, track your patterns, and monitor your progress on this path of integration.
That makes a lot of sense. It grounds the process. This all points really strongly to the deep transformative impact of spirituality and mindfulness on our ability to transform ourselves and therefore consciously co-create our reality. It's not just about abstract beliefs, is it? It's about practical tools for interchange that have real-world effects.
Precisely. It's where the rubber meets the road. Spirituality, in its broadest sense encompassing practices, beliefs, experiences of connection, can bring about significant, measurable transformation in both our cognition, how we think, and our behavior, how we act.
How does that transformation show up?
Well, studies and traditions point to profound shifts in locus of control, moving from feeling like a victim of external circumstances, things happen to me, to recognizing your inner agency and influence. I can influence my experience. It enhances personal competence or self-concept, building confidence, and it often fosters a broadening of outlook, moving individuals toward what researchers call a more inclusive, differentiated, permeable, and integrated meaning perspective.
So a bigger, more flexible worldview.
Exactly. It's not just about intellectual understanding, though that's part of it. It's about tangible changes in how you think, how you feel, how you perceive the world, and how you act within it, leading to a richer, more integrated, and more empowered experience of life.
And this holistic transformation seems to hinge on understanding and actively engaging with that mind-spirit-body connection, right? The idea that what affects one aspect inherently impacts the others. They aren't separate compartments.
Exactly. The interconnections of the mind, spirit, and body are absolutely fundamental to this holistic transformation. They are inseparable. What you feed your mind, the beliefs you hold, the information you consume affects your spirit and body. The spiritual practices you engage in can calm the mind and relax the body. Your physical health and energetic alignment can profoundly influence your mental clarity and your spiritual receptivity. It's a constant feedback loop.
So you can't really work on one without affecting the others?
Not optimally, no. True integration leads to deep transformation through a combination of practices. Things like prayers or intention setting that align your focus, meditation that quiets the mental chatter and allows deeper connection, affirmation that helps reprogram limiting beliefs in the subconscious, and even complementary therapies like yoga, acupuncture, or energy work that support holistic balance. It's really a full-spectrum approach to self-mastery and conscious creation.
So practices like Zen meditation, for instance, aren't just about relaxation or finding a moment of peace in a busy day, although that's valuable too. They're actually about gaining profound insight and actively shaping a different, more aligned reality.
That's absolutely right. Zen meditation and similar contemplative practices help to quiet your mind, to settle that incessant chatter, especially from that automatic system one thinking we'll talk about. This quieting allows for a deeper state of awareness to emerge.
And in that stillness,
You gain access to the wisdom, compassion, and happiness that flow naturally through a deep interconnectedness of things. It's not just an intellectual idea of connection, it's an experiential feeling of it. It offers, practitioners say, the insight to free yourself from the illusions of ordinary life.
Yeah.
Those self-imposed limitations, cognitive biases, the grip of the ego, enabling you to live their lives within timeless, pure and serene Buddha nature, or however your tradition frames that ultimate reality.
So it directly connects how intentional mental practice can lead to manifesting a different reality.
Yes, by changing your inner state, your perception, and your point of attraction, you naturally begin to experience and create a different outer reality. It's about moving from being merely in the world, tossed about by it, to being of the world, truly present, connected, and participating consciously in its unfolding.
And then there's that fascinatingly paradoxical Taoist concept of inaction, or wu wei, for effortless co-creation. That almost seems counterintuitive when we're talking about actively manifesting our reality and taking control.
Yeah.
It sounds like doing nothing.
It sounds like doing nothing, and that's the paradox. but it's profoundly effective when understood correctly. The Taoist principle, often quoted from the Tao Te Ching, states, "Tao does not act, yet leaves nothing undone."
How is that possible?
And there's the related idea that the follower of Tao loses as much as he can every day. By attrition, he reaches a state of inaction, wu wei, wherein he does nothing but leaves nothing undone. To conquer the world, do nothing. This isn't about laziness or passivity or apathy. Far from it.
So what is it about?
It's about aligning oneself so completely, so perfectly with the natural flow of the way, the Tao, the universal rhythms, the underlying currents of reality, that your actions become effortless, spontaneous, and perfectly effective because they arise from that flow rather than struggling against it.
Like a surfer riding a wave instead of fighting it.
Excellent analogy, exactly. Or imagine a skilled river pilot who navigates treacherous currents not by brute force fighting the water, but by understanding its flow intimately and moving with it, using its energy. This seeming inaction, the absence of egoic striving, forcing, and resisting, leads to a state of flow where the right actions arise spontaneously, almost by themselves, and achieve maximum effect precisely because they are in harmony with the creative pulse of the universe. It's about letting go of forcing, controlling, and micromanaging, and instead allowing, trusting, and acting from a place of deep alignment, which paradoxically often leads to more powerful and graceful manifestation than effortful struggle ever could.
Okay, so with all these incredibly deep insights, the mental nature of existence, our inherent divine nature, our co-creative power through intention, shadow work, mindfulness, how do we actually navigate reality as spiritual adults, as we called it earlier, especially in this incredibly complex, information-saturated, often confusing world we live in? It seems like critical thinking would be an absolutely vital tool, almost a prerequisite for discernment.
It is not just vital, I'd argue it's foundational, absolutely essential. And Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking work in psychology gives us a fantastic model for understanding why it's so necessary. He introduced the idea of two distinct systems of thinking operating in our minds. System 1, which he calls fast thinking, and System 2, slow thinking.
Okay, System 1 and System 2, fast and slow.
Right. System 1 is our automatic, intuitive, effortless, and incredibly fast mode of thought. It operates largely unconsciously below the radar of awareness. It likes simplicity and coherence, makes quick associations, relies on heuristics or mental shortcuts, and crucially, Kahneman says it doesn't doubt, it jumps to conclusions.
That's our gut reaction, our immediate impression.
Pretty much. It's responsible for snap judgments, immediate reactions, pattern recognition. It often makes decisions before our conscious mind, System 2, even gets a chance to weigh in. Think of it as your mind's autopilot, very efficient for everyday tasks, but definitely prone to assumptions and biases.
Okay, so what's System 2?
System 2 is the opposite. It's deliberate, rational, effortful, and slow. It's the conscious, analytical part of our mind that jumps in when things are tough or unfamiliar. When System 1 encounters a problem it can't quickly or easily solve, it does the complex calculations, the logical reasoning, the weighing of pros and cons.
That sounds like the part we think we're using most of the time.
We like to think so. But, and this is really crucial, Kahneman points out that System 2 is often lazy. It requires conscious activation and sustained mental effort to engage. It prefers to let System 1 handle things if possible. So if we don't actively engage System 2, deliberately slow down and question things, we often just default to System 1's quick, easy, and frequently biased conclusions.
And this inherent laziness of System 2, combined with System 1's tendency for quick judgments based on patterns and emotions, that's what often leads us straight into those cognitive biases we hear so much about, those ingrained systematic patterns of flawed thinking.
Yes, exactly. These cognitive biases are defined as systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. They result in illogical inferences about other people and situations, and they lead us to unconsciously construct our own subjective social realities, which might not align well with objective reality.
And they feel right at the time.
Oh, absolutely. They feel perfectly right in the moment because System 1 operates with such confidence, such certainty. Take hindsight bias, for example. After an event occurs, we often convince ourselves, oh, I knew it all along, even if we were completely uncertain beforehand.
Yeah, I think we all do that.
Or proportionality bias, the assumption that big events must have big, complex causes. This can lead people down elaborate rabbit holes of conspiracy theories when sometimes a simpler, more mundane explanation might suffice. These biases aren't just intellectual curiosities. They actively distort our perception of reality. They influence our decisions, our relationships, our beliefs, and yes, even our ability to consciously manifest. Because if your perception of reality is skewed by bias, your intentions might be built on faulty foundations. You might be trying to manifest something based on a complete misunderstanding of the situation.
Which is where something like Carl Sagan's famous baloney detection kit comes in, right?
Yeah.
As a kind of practical, critical countermeasure to all this automatic bias thinking.
It's an absolutely vital framework for precisely that critical thinking, especially in an age saturated with information, misinformation, and disinformation. Sagan's kit provides, I think it's 9 intellectual tools. Things like encouraging independent confirmation of facts, looking for quantifiable evidence, considering multiple working hypotheses, using Occam's razor, the principle that all else being equal, the simplest explanation is usually the best. And importantly, not getting overly attached to your own hypotheses, being willing to discard them if the evidence doesn't support them.
So it's applying scientific thinking to everyday life.
Exactly. Sagan emphasized that the scientific method has built-in error-correcting mechanisms that can be adapted as a way of thinking in everyday life. It's about rigorously evaluating arguments, scrutinizing claims, especially extraordinary or pseudoscientific ones, demanding evidence before acceptance, and being aware of our own fallibility and biases.
So for spiritual adults, people on this journey we're describing, this doesn't mean dismissing the mysterious or the spiritual out of hand.
Not at all.
But applying discernment, applying critical thought to ensure your path is built on some kind of truth, or at least congruence, not just wishful thinking or self-deception.
Precisely. It's crucial to differentiate true skepticism, which is about critical thinking, evidence-based inquiry, and maintaining a genuine curiosity, from what's sometimes called pseudo-skeptical posturing.
What's that?
That's just a knee-jerk dismissal of anything mysterious, unconventional, or outside the current scientific mainstream, often without any genuine investigation or curiosity. It's closed-mindedness masquerading as critical thinking. We also must recognize things like non-falsifiable claims, statements that cannot, even in principle, be proven false. While these might hold personal meaning, we shouldn't treat them as objective facts or valid assumptions about reality without acknowledging their nature.
So understanding our own cognitive biases, using tools like Sagan's kit, it's paramount for making better decisions, for discerning truth from delusion.
Yes, and for constructing a more accurate subjective social reality. By actively working to de-bias our perceptions, by questioning our assumptions, especially the ones that feel most certain, we can overcome self-deception and many common hindrances to intentional manifestation. It allows us to perceive the true nature of the universe and our place within it more accurately, and thus align our intentions with reality, not just our biased perception of it. It makes our co-creation efforts much more effective.
And for those seeking a deeper, more integrated understanding of themselves and the universe, the Wanderer's Compass series itself is specifically designed to be a personal guide for that very journey, isn't it? That journey of self-discovery and spiritual adulthood, a path that really embraces individuality rather than prescribing dogma.
Exactly. The whole ethos behind the Wanderer's Compass encourages what's often called eclectic spirituality, or sometimes crossing paths, as individuals like Maddie Carroll practice it.
Eclectic spirituality, meaning mixing and matching.
In a thoughtful way, yes. It emphasizes drawing inspiration, wisdom, and practices from various traditions, perhaps from the laid-back wisdom of Judaism, the nature-based reverence of Wicca, the flowing balance of Taoism, the deep psychological insights of Jung, the ancient principles of Hermeticism, Buddhist mindfulness, Christian mysticism, countless others. The idea isn't to adhere rigidly to a single prepackaged dogma, but to consciously build a spiritual practice and worldview that is uniquely yours. A personal mosaic of wisdom that genuinely resonates with your soul, your experience, your questions.
So it acknowledges that no single path holds all the truth for everyone.
Absolutely. It fundamentally rejects that spirituality is a highly individual, deeply personal journey. This is a foundational principle of the Wanderer's Compass. The core idea is that each unique sentient being has their own unique connection to the collective spirit, however they define that. Therefore, logically, the only being that can decide the right path for each being is that unique being itself.
That's very empowering. It puts the responsibility and the authority back on the individual.
It does. It's about personal resonance, authenticity, and inner guidance. It empowers you to forge your own spiritual journey, to ask your own questions and find your own answers, rather than simply adopting someone else's beliefs wholesale. It's about listening to your inner compass.
Mircea Eliade's broader perspective on spirituality seems to beautifully support this inclusive view, doesn't it? Moving beyond traditional religious definitions of needing God or gods.
Yes, Eliade, the renowned historian of religions, offered a very expansive view. He explained that religion, or perhaps better termed spirituality, doesn't necessarily mean belief in a specific god or gods, or adherence to a particular institution. Rather, he saw it as fundamentally rooted in an experience of the sacred, an engagement with profound ideas of being, meaning, and truth.
The experience of the sacred.
Yes. And this sacredness, he argued, isn't limited to churches, temples, or holy books. It can pervade all realities, both animate and inanimate, because the cosmos itself is often perceived in these experiences as a divine creation, inherently imbued with meaning and wonder. So you can find and experience the sacred in nature, in art, in moments of deep human connection, in scientific discovery, or even in contemplating the elegant mathematical structure of the universe described by modern physics.
It really broadens the scope of what spiritual connection can entail.
It makes it accessible to everyone, regardless of their background, beliefs, or lack thereof. It validates personal experience as a source of spiritual insight.
And ultimately, actively engaging with spirituality in this broad sense, exploring these diverse paths, cultivating that sense of connection or sacredness. It seems to offer significant tangible benefits for our psychological well-being, doesn't it? Especially as we navigate the inevitable complexities and challenges of life.
Indeed. And this isn't just anecdotal. Extensive research now backs this up. Spiritual beliefs and practices, even non-theistic ones focused on connection and meaning, consistently contribute significantly to psychological well-being.
In what ways?
They foster hope, providing a sense of possibility even in difficult times. They cultivate optimism, helping people focus on positive potentials. They build resilience, enabling individuals to bounce back more effectively from adversity, trauma, or loss. This engagement actively supports mental health. It provides profound comfort, a robust sense of purpose and meaning, and aids significantly in both cognitive restructuring, changing negative thought patterns, and behavioral transformation, adopting healthier habits.
So it's a journey not just of understanding cosmic truths, but of becoming a more whole, resilient person.
Exactly. It's about truly thriving, becoming a more robust, integrated, and empowered human being, capable of navigating life's challenges with greater wisdom and grace, and consciously co-creating a life filled with deeper meaning, connection, and fulfillment.
Wow. Okay, what an incredibly expansive journey we've taken today. We really have covered a lot of ground. We began by truly diving deep into that foundational understanding that the universe isn't just physical stuff, but fundamentally mental, discovering how our very existence is beautifully interwoven within the boundless mind of the all.
Starting with the Kybalion. Then we explored that revolutionary scientific and mystical unity of space and time, how the old ideas of absolute space and time dissolved, revealing this fluid, interconnected, four-dimensional continuum.
Right, and how those four dimensions, length, width, depth, and time, are like the minimum necessary framework for anything to differentiate and actually manifest out of potential.
And how that elegant 0-1 framework, 0 as pure potential, 1 as the first manifestation, underlies it all, with time serving as that essential axis along which this incredible process unfolds, from potential to actual.
And from there, we journeyed into the really profound truth or proposition of our inherent divine nature, exploring how we might not be merely a tiny piece of the divine, but fundamentally divine in nature ourselves, active expressions of the all.
Yeah, looking at how our physical nature and those perceived limitations we feel so strongly are often, from these perspectives, illusions. Things suppressed or created by our own self-imposed beliefs, often rooted deep in toxic shame and nurtured by the unexamined, unintegrated aspects of our unconscious shadow self.
And then finally, the really empowering part. We uncovered how our minds, and specifically our intentionality, our focused will and imagination, are the ultimate powerful keys to this co-creative process. The keys that allow us to potentially transcend these limitations and consciously manifest, or at least influence, our reality.
Absolutely. And we equipped you, the listener, with some powerful conceptual tools for this journey, from hermetic mental transmutation and that intriguing law of neutralization.
Rising above the swing.
Right. To Jungian individuation and the crucial importance of shadow work for wholeness, and the profound insights offered by mindfulness practices like Zen meditation, and even the seemingly paradoxical power of Taoist inaction, or wu-wei.
Effortless action.
Yeah.
And critically, we didn't forget the grounding element.
Yeah.
The essential role of critical thinking, understanding our cognitive biases thanks to Kahneman, and using tools like Sagan's Kit, all fundamental skills for any spiritual adult trying to navigate reality with discernment.
Couldn't agree more. Discernment is key.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's just briefly revisit that intriguing title from the Wanderer's Compass episode we've explored today. Infinity. Like we're going to make it out alive.
Yeah.
Thinking about everything we've discussed, what does making it out alive truly mean? Especially when existence and time aren't necessarily linear and finite, but potentially unified, infinite, maybe even cyclical. When our own fundamental nature might be inherently divine and eternal.
It really reframes the question, doesn't it? It profoundly challenges that conventional notion of a finite survival against inevitable oblivion.
Yeah, it suggests something else entirely. Maybe a continuous evolving experience within an infinite reality, an endless journey of discovery, learning, and co-creation, rather than a struggle for mere survival.
So here's the final provocative thought to leave you with. If existence itself is an infinite, unified mental creation, and your consciousness is not separate, but an integral, active part of the all, truly capable of intentional manifestation and transcending perceived limitations through inner work, how does this knowledge profoundly shift your understanding of life and death?
And what new possibilities does it reveal for your ongoing journey through this infinity? Not as a passive passenger just along for the ride, but as a conscious co-creator. With this deeper understanding, this expanded perspective, what will you choose to co-create next?